Hey, what is up guys, the Strong Boys 19 here. This is going to be the next movie review into the Halloween franchise. I know that I just feel very lazy because I didn't really do anything that much at all today. But since that I had recently been back into the time of reviewing movies, I thought since that I had reviewed Halloween Resurrection, it is time to go into the next film from the franchise, which is the 2007 Rob Zombie Halloween remake. Now, this remake is definitely one of those films that a lot of people still give a lot of controversy for. A lot of the people will disregard this as one of the worst in the series, though there are some people that do defend this movie. It was directed by Rob Zombie. He also did the production, as well as Malik Akkad and Andy Gold. He did the screenplay, and the cast to this: Malcolm McDowell as Dr. Sam Loomis, Sherry Moon Zombie, being Rob's wife, as Michael Myers' mother, and you got Scout Tyler Compton as Laurie Strode in the second half of the movie, Brad Dourif as the father of one of the babysitters. And speaking of the babysitters, one of Laurie's friends as the babysitter, played by Danielle Harris. So this is the first time we get to see Danielle Harris in a Halloween film since 1989's Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. The music was done by Tyler Bates. The budget for this movie was $15 million and the box office was $80.4 million. Out of all of the Halloween movies that I had seen, I would definitely think and regard that this movie is not one of the weakest, though not one of the best. I will get to my thoughts about the movie in a few minutes. The film opens up with Michael being portrayed by Daeg Farik as the younger boy of Michael. He lives with an abusive family, an aggressive and foul-mouthed stepfather, his mother, the time of Michael going through his troubled time, being bullied and picked on at school with an abusive amount of violence from them, a difficult principal at the school, to the amount of these traumatized moments that it caused Michael to just basically snap and kill off the bully in the beginning of the movie. This is really where the beginning of Michael Myers becoming this sadistic, very dark, brutal serial killer takes place. So the first half of the movie is pretty much the big presentation of a recap of the younger self of Michael being 10 years old and goes through rough times. There were points in this film in the first half that he just really got sick of everything. He became much more violent and an aggressive character, stealing the steak knife and kills off Judith, taping and slashing the throat off from the stepfather. And immediately the violence to this film really started to take its toll for a lot of the extreme blood and gore that is so over the top in this movie. Michael has been eventually arrested and been found guilty for first-degree murder from his grisly crimes, so he's been sent away to Smith's Grove Sanitarium. Malcolm McDowell's character as Dr. Sam Loomis, and he's been taking care of him, asking him multiple questions, Michael not agreeing with everything that he says, if he had caused all the crimes. And during this time, whilst in the sanitarium, Michael has been making many different various masks with different pieces of paper just to, hide his own face, and making various different designs. Well, there was one incident at one visit that her mother decided to see his son inside the building. He eventually kills a nurse, and Deborah, being the mother, really got traumatized by it. It affected her that very, very badly. She got back home later in the film, seeing very old family footage of her with Michael being his happy self. Then at the ending point of that scene, she decides to take her own life. So 15 years later, Michael Myers still inside the mental asylum, not spoken to anybody. As with Dr. Sam Loomis, Michael just, didn't do anything to help Loomis, so he basically is pretty much given up. But then at one point in the film, Michael escapes after attacking a few of the people that decided to have decision of raping one of the female patients inside, which I think is absolutely horrible to see. That is one of the worst parts of the movie. It was totally unnecessary and I really didn't like it. Kills the two guards in the process, also kills off a truck driver to find some clothes and to formalize himself as the Michael Myers. So that is pretty much like the main purpose of the background behind this remake. And I do like the idea with what Rob decided to make in his own mind. I thought the first half was better than the second half, because the second half is pretty much like a homage and a presentation of making his own ways and versions of the original movie. I will have to say that I'm not going to say much about the later half being very similar to the original, but I could safely say that Scout Taylor Compton as Laurie Strode is one of the better cast members. I thought her performance was absolutely excellent. Felt the sense of the heavily traumatized and fearsome expressions from her face, the performances, especially with Brad Dourif and Danielle Harris. I gotta say that while the movie from the beginning became really violent, the violence in this film is pretty much non-stop, continuing on. There is so many more of these gruesome kills, and there were some homages to a few various scenes from the original, but at the same time, I specifically don't think about these pieces in the remake to be as well executed, because with these later characters that we pretty much have seen before from the original, but with obviously being a different cast, it's nothing like a big reminiscent of the original as strongly, because I thought a lot of the violence got very tiring and there were some added extra bits that we get to see. I thought a few of the pacings felt pretty slow and it kind of drags the movie a little bit for me. So I will have to give Rob Zombie credit for what he wanted to make into this scenario of a Halloween remake, but as it stands right now, the later half isn't as good in my opinion, though I don't mind it that it was made this way, obviously with the big additional violence that really spreads the barrel of being so chaotic than the original, just because the really high gore and the blood effects in this movie is so noticeable, doesn't make the whole movie perfect. The violence isn't just everything for one movie. It has to have interesting plots, a good cast, and the screenplay to be well crafted, and the cinematography. I thought some of the camera shots and the cinematography were well shot, especially when Michael goes into his enraged rampage of trying to terminate his younger sister of Laurie. But, at the end of the day, it is pretty much like a rehash of the original. It's not that bad, as many people say that it is. So I will have to say that the things that I liked in the movie, I thought a lot of the cast did very good jobs, especially with Malcolm McDowell's performance as Dr. Sam Loomis. I really liked him in this remake. He was very, very good. The guy that played Michael Myers as an adult has been portrayed by Tyler Mane. I thought he did a really good performance totally in a very rage-inducing way of expression and his acting as Michael, but there were things I had to talk about that I thought were drawbacks. Like I said about the rape scene part before Michael escapes was so unnecessary. Even the part of Michael's mother having a scene of her occupation being a stripper, that was some point that I didn't really care for either. I thought that was filler. I thought that, as I said, the pacing got really tiring and the violence repetitive. It was not as really connecting with me like the previous movies, but I would definitely see this one as a very average movie. It has moments of some brilliance and some that turned my expectations for not really enjoying this movie as I wanted it to be. But it is a very decent remake. It is not as strong as the other earlier Halloween films, in my opinion. It saves the last as, being a decent film, but not really one of my favorites. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer did the distribution for the movie, as well as the Weinstein Company. I thought the music to the movie from Tyler Bates is very different, and especially with the eerier version of the original theme track was okay. It has some decent pieces of music, but it's not really like a masterpiece of a remake. Let's put it that way. That's really all I would like to say about the remake of Rob Zombie's Halloween, and I would like to see your thoughts about the remake in the comments down below. And in terms for a rating, I'm going to give this movie 3 stars out of 5. It is something tolerable that I would accept than some of the other Halloween movies I've reviewed previously in the franchise, but this one I just thought it was okay. It's a good remake, but in terms of other remakes, I think the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake is one of my favorites. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll keep you guys posted for more videos in the near future.